Zabiha is the name of that practice. So a lot of people loosely use the term halal, right? Everything is halal to us, but Zabiha is the term that they really mean to use. Does that help you? Okay. Yes, sir. Yes.
And just curious what, if Sharia law had impacted your life in any way, and more so maybe once you were more devout, and if you, or how you see Sharia law.
Is it compatible here with the U.S.? Yes. Okay, so everybody says Sharia law, Sharia law. Most Muslims don't even know what the heck Sharia law is, right? I love Dr. Kimball. Whenever he does his speech on Sharia law, he goes, everybody says Sharia law is coming to get them, but they don't know what it is, right? And so Sharia law to us is just a basic way of living your life. And the most important tenet of Sharia law is abiding by the law of the land, right? So I live in the U.S., right? The Constitution, the judicial system that we have, that's the law of the land, right? To be able to call myself a Muslim, a good Muslim, I have to abide by the laws of this land, okay? If I live in Canada, I abide by the laws of Canada. If I live in wherever, I abide by those laws. That's one of the most important parts of Sharia. The second part of Sharia, it's just like the Ten Commandments. So we abide by the Ten Commandments as well, except for one. Can you think of which one that we don't abide by? The Sabbath. Thank you. So to us, Friday is the holy day, right? And so it's just like the Ten Commandments. You can't lie, you can't kill, you can't cheat. That's what it is. It's a way of life to us, right? And so, of course, you can coexist with Sharia and the judicial system here. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Now, those people, like ISIS, like Al-Qaeda, like all those psychopaths who like to hijack my religion and twist it to their own ways, of course, are going to twist everything in the religion, right? Just like Westboro Baptist, just like David Koresh, right? Do I have to go on and on? You see what I'm saying? You can cherry pick any part of any scripture and twist it, right? And so those twisted people that we believe to be murderers and that do not represent my religion, just like those other people do not represent your religion, all they're doing is just, they're preying on these poor innocent people. So if you can imagine your life, your family's been murdered, you're in destitute, and you're already very, very fragile state of mind, right? And some charismatic psychopath comes up to you and says, look what they did to you. Look what they did to your family. You need to get revenge, and you're going to go to heaven, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that, and I'm going to give all this money to take care of the rest of your family. How hard is it going to be for you to be convinced to strap a bomb to your body and go blow yourself up? Now, I'm not condoning it in any way, and no Muslim will ever condone it in any way, right? No matter how fragile you are, that is still 100% wrong, because revenge is a huge sin in my religion, okay? There's a difference between self-defense and revenge. I go home, somebody's breaking into my house, and they've got my kids hostage. Am I going to hurt them? You better bet Mama Bear is going to come out, right? But the police have already arrested him, and he's being hauled off. Am I going to go chase after him and get revenge? No, that's revenge. That's not self-defense, right? And so a huge part of our faith is that God gave you life. It's not up to you to take it away. So we believe in a very physical hell and a very physical heaven, right? And so a person who is mentally fine, so when I say mentally fine, I'm not talking about somebody who has mental issues like schizophrenia, bipolar, whatever, right? A person who is in their right state of mind, no matter how fragile it is because of some event that has happened, but you're still fine, right? That is suicide. And you don't pass go, you don't collect $200, you go straight to hell, according to our scriptures, okay? One of the big parts of the scripture says, one who has taken the life of one person, it's as if he has killed all of humanity. He will be judged as if he has taken the life of all of humanity. And one who has saved the life of another, it's as if he has saved all of humanity. So does that tell you how much of a weight it has to take your life and somebody else's life? Of course, you don't hear that, right? On the media, all you hear is, these Islamics, these jihadists, these this and that and the other, they're out here to kill everybody. There's 1.6, 1.7 billion of us, right? I got better things to do than to go chase down my neighbor, right? I've got to pay my bills. I've got to take care of my kids, right? I mean, we just ask people just to have a little bit of common sense, right? Why would we have so many physicians that are Muslim? How many of you have Muslim physicians? See, isn't it awesome? We have so many Muslim physicians and so many Muslim educators because a main part of our faith is to save life, if you can, right? So a lot of them go into the medical field just to be able to save lives or to be able to teach, right? Social workers, right? And so it's a point system to us, right? As many blessings as we can gather, right? And so does that kind of help you? I'm sorry, I went long, drawn-out answer, but does that help?
Well, I think there are some though who probably aren't terrorists who would like to see religious courts as an option for them.
Well, here in the United States, I would like to keep religion out of the government, right? Just like anybody else, right? Why did they come here from England in the first place? Religious persecution, right? Right? Unfortunately, we don't learn from history, right? We continue to persecute and persecute and persecute. Not just us, but, they came here because of religious persecution, and then what happened to the indigenous people, right? And then the African Americans. And then, it went on to, Europeans and Catholics, and then Japanese, and then Hispanics, and now it's our turn. I guess it's just our turn, right? We keep taking turns, but unfortunately, I tell people instead of evolving, we're devolving, right? And so I would hope that people would just wake up and just, try and get along. Even if you don't want to get along with your neighbor, at least don't disrespect them, That's important. As I told you, I liaise for TPD, and we've never had so many hate crimes, even after 9/11. This year, since the beginning of the year already, we've had 75 hate crimes in Tulsa alone against people who they thought were Muslim or Muslims. Last spring, I don't know if you guys heard on the news, some lady who happens to be a friend of mine, and she's Maronite Catholic. She has a huge cross that she wears on her neck. Her neighbor, while she was kneeling down by her mailbox, she was taking care of her flower bed, decided to run her over and then back up his car and run her back over again. And she spent months in ICU because he thought she was a Muslim, So I really didn't see all the discrimination until I covered. I wasn't covered during 9/11, and so I really didn't see as much discrimination. The only discrimination that really affected me during 9/11 was my mom. She's this old, frail little lady, and she was in Sam's Club in Tulsa. And my dad was in the parking lot hanging out waiting for her, and some big old burly guy came and slammed her to the ground and started cursing at her and telling her that her kind of people and a bunch of expletives. And people just stood there and watched as he kept kicking my mom and doing all sorts of horrible things to her. My mom was petrified and didn't leave the house for about 3.5 months. And several people in our congregation lived through things like that. And so, but we were so blessed that so many off-duty police officers and ex-military came to our aid and said, we'll come and take you wherever you need to go. We will make sure that you are safe. All of that to be said, we still haven't seen this much hate up until this year. Even then, we haven't had this much hate. So when a child brings a bullet and puts it on my son's desk and says, this is for your kind of people, he's learning that somewhere. When I get attacked on the street while I've got my kids in the car with me, and he's trying to get into my car after he's just struck my car, and I'm calling 911, and he's trying to pry my door open to get into my car, what did I do to you? I didn't do anything to you. Why are you messing with me? And so we would just hope that when you hear somebody saying derogatory remarks, say, hey, do you know a Muslim? Have you ever talked to a Muslim? With the exception of all this malarkey you hear on the news. Have you ever talked to one? Go talk to one. I guarantee you 99% out of 100, 99 times out of 100, they're probably just as nice as you are, or, they're just as worried about life just like you are, So.
I'm sure all that's true, but nevertheless, look at all of the deaths that have been caused by Muslims, and people don't know which one is going to,
Oh yeah, I agree with you 100%.
you know, you
But
can
if you look
talk
at the
about
statistics, though, let's look at the statistics. Look on any Pew statistic. See how many deaths were caused by Muslims here in the U.S. domestically, and then see how many deaths were caused by everybody else. I will bet you anything that they are so much larger. So much larger. I guarantee you. Like I told you, I liaise, and I know the numbers. Okay? I guarantee you. Okay? So why do you think you hear so much of it? Because the second a Muslim does something, I'm not saying it's right, it's 100% wrong. The second a Muslim commits a crime, immediately they're terrorists, and they've done it. And they are terrorists probably, or they're murderers, right? But the second somebody who is anything other than a Muslim does something, oh, it's just, it's just a crime. They're mentally ill, right? Can you turn on the news today, anywhere in the state of Oklahoma, and not hear somebody was murdered, some sort of child abuse, anything? Please, I implore you.
that's true, but what about the mass killings? That's what I'm concerned about.
How many mass killings were done during the Crusades? How many mass killings were done with Hitler? How many mass killings were done in Bosnia? I mean, we can go on and on and on and on.
About the Crusades and
Yes.
when they started and who started them.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. When you want to talk about mass killings, we can go on and on and on and on in history, right? Here in the U.S., if you look at the domestic numbers of terrorism, there's Murrah Building, right? Who was that? A Muslim? That was right here in our backyard.
No, it
Right?
was not. But
Okay.
Let me get back to the Crusades.
Mhm.
The Christian Crusades that went down to that area
Mhm.
were in retaliation from what the Muslims did in taking over Syria, Turkey, Egypt, and Israel back when Muhammad led one of the Crusades back in 630.
But at the time, were they being attacked? No, they weren't.
The
They weren't being attacked. At the time, they were not being attacked. They were not being attacked. Let's look at history.
Muslim was not being-
The Christians were not being attacked at that time. Everybody else was fine. There was peace at the time.
What I'm saying to you is.
When the
that
Crusades started.
Muslims led the attacks on Christians, and then the Christian Crusades started 400 years later.
Exactly. 400 years later, though. There was peace for 400 years. This is my point. This is my point. I understand. Yes, land and greed. Thank you. Thank you. But again, what I'm trying to tell you is, because of the media, it's so sensationalized. Let's talk about the Paris bombings, okay? The second the Paris bombings, everybody heard about the Paris bombings. How many of you heard about the bombings in Beirut the day before? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4 people out of the room. 5 people. Okay? Those were committed by ISIS. You know how many Muslims ISIS has killed compared to the Christians? And I'm not saying one life is more than another. What I'm saying is, bad people are bad people regardless of their faith, right? And the day before that, the day before the bombings, the 4 bombings that happened in Beirut, which nobody heard about hardly ever, right? The day right before that in Afghanistan, an entire family was beheaded in the center of the village, and the youngest of which was a 9-year-old little girl because they did not want to go with whatever ISIS wanted them to do. Did you hear about that? No. What I'm trying to explain to you is I'm not defending Muslims that are terrorists, right? I'm not defending them at all. What I'm saying is, because a handful of psychopaths, murderers, are doing crimes, that doesn't mean that the 1.6 billion of us that aren't, that are peaceful, are all terrorists. Does that make sense? This is what I'm trying to, this is my message.
I know you're not all terrorists.
But that's not what everybody thinks.
Well,
That's not what everybody thinks. The second that somebody sees me, and when I'm standing in the middle of Quick Trip, I'm sitting here, getting a fountain drink with my daughter. This gentleman comes up to me and hands me a card. And I said, "Oh, thank you very much," and I put it in my back pocket. And he looks at me, he goes, "Ma'am, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior today?" In the middle of Quick Trip, right? I've got my 10-year-old with me. And I looked at him, I said, "I accept Jesus Christ every day." I said, "But as my Lord and Savior, that's a different story," And I was very respectful, okay? And he looked at me and he said, "You know you're damned to hell, right?" So he's getting more and more angry with me. And I told him, I said, sir, I truly appreciate your concern for my well-being. And I wasn't trying to be a smart aleck, because in his mind, he's trying to look out for my well-being, for my hereafter. And I do truly appreciate that. When people come and talk to me respectfully and they're concerned about my well-being, I have tons of evangelist friends who on a daily basis, I have Jehovah's Witnesses that I invite into my home. On a daily basis, they are concerned. I'm being serious. So on a daily basis, they are concerned about my well-being, and I appreciate them if they're being respectful. But this guy was getting angrier and angrier as he was talking to me. I said, sir, thank you so very much. I appreciate you, but let's agree to disagree, right? You're going to hell and you're going to take that little girl with you. And he's screaming so loud that the cashiers have now ran up to the back and everybody has stopped and they're staring at me in the middle of Quick Trip, right? I said, sir, would you please have a wonderful day? And I turned around. My daughter is shaking. 10-year-old, shaking, okay?
You do realize that doesn't just happen to you as a Muslim. That happens to us as Christians by other Christians that confess.
See, and this is my point.
But
This
what
is my
I'm trying
point.
to say is it's not just.
I know, and this is my point. Why do we have to go judging everybody? Why can't we just love one another and just respect one another? Just respect one another. You don't have to love one another, just respect one another, right?
I'm just hearing you judge all of us.
No, by no means am I judging you. Please don't misunderstand me.
Right.
And I do apologize if you all thought that I was judging you.
That's
Please
why I wanna
accept
come
my
back to
apology.
this, because
Yes.
hatred comes from all angles.
Yes.
Against race, against religion.
Yes, against genders, against everybody.
Against someone with white hair
Of course.
versus someone with dark hair.
Of course, definitely.
I just came from a group of people that's 90% Hispanic, you know.
Of course,
You
of
know,
course.
It's just ingrained in people.
I understand.
But the one point I think that was trying to come out is that unless you know the other person, you don't know.
Thank
who
you.
can
Can I
trust
hug
and
you?
who You
I love
can't see.
See, this is my point. This is my point exactly. I just implore you all just to talk to one another and to get to know one another, right? Because inherently we're all afraid of the unknown, right? We're afraid of the unknown. You know, sometimes when you go somewhere and you don't know the area, you're a little more cautious. You lock your doors, you're a little more cautious, right? Right? Until you meet somebody, until they smile at you, until you get that it's okay to talk to that person look, right? It's normal to be afraid, especially when you're hearing it in the media constantly. These people are horrible, these people are doing these things, right?
All we get is a negative.
Exactly. Because regardless of who you are, I'm not saying just Muslims, in the media, if it bleeds, it leads. Correct? Correct? Right? It's sensationalism, right? Whatever the bad is, that's what's going to lead in the media. Are you going to hear about all the good things you're doing? No, you don't, right? And so this is my point exactly. And please, again, I want to apologize to all of you if you all thought that I was being judgmental. Please, please, please. That was not by any means my, what I was trying to get across. My message that I was trying to get across is that just like what this gentleman said, how do we know? I'm sure there's a lot of you that are good, but how do we know the good from the bad? We don't know the good from the bad. We don't know the good from the bad. And that's why so many of us work so well with law enforcement. As within my position at IST, every other week I have a meeting with FBI and with TPD and with the mayor and with the sheriff's department and with DEA, just so we can figure out if there's any issues. Not just from within our congregation, but outside of our congregation as well. People who are trying to do us harm. And, it's my community. I was born and raised in Tulsa. It's my community. If I can stop something, you better believe I'm going to stop it, because it's wrong. Regardless of who it is that's doing it, it is wrong, right? And so, unfortunately, though, these people who commit these acts, they're lone wolves. Typically, they don't go into congregations. I mean, talk to FBI profilers. They'll tell you, right? It's very difficult to find these people, right? Unless if we get some information that they've come from someplace else or whatever, but it's just as much our job to keep everybody safe as it is anybody's job, so.
Let me ask one question, and like you did earlier, you got from Google, I got one from Google as well.
Yes.
But it says in the Quran 5:51, when the sacred months are over, kill those who ascribe partners to God. Does that mean Christ and the Holy Spirit?
No.
Who does that mean?
So they're talking about paganists at the time. So if you remember,
To God?
partners to God would be pagans. So just like I told you a minute ago, earlier in my discussion, we talked about the Trinity, right? And I asked you guys, do you believe the Trinity to be one, or do you believe the Trinity to be three? And no, but it is still Jesus, correct? We are still talking about Jesus being the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, correct?
So it's 3 in 1.
It's 3 in 1, but it's still Jesus. It is still God that you are talking about, correct? You're not talking about Vishnu and Brahma and this and that and the other, thousands of different idols, correct? And so in that particular chapter, it was talking about the paganists who were coming after the Muslims in the area of Mecca. So this is what it's talking about. We're not paganists, right? You guys aren't paganists, correct? You believe in one God. Isn't that the basis of Christianity? Right? One God, even though it is a Trinity, but it is all one, correct? This is our understanding of the Trinity. It's still one, correct? Is this not the understanding of Christianity that Jesus is one, even though it's 3? Yes,
Distinct parts that don't always know and have the same information.
but they are all still Jesus, correct? They are all still the Father. Okay. Okay, he's the Son. He is the Son. But again, it is all one God, correct? Correct? And this is my point. So when I asked this question, they actually asked me this question yesterday. And they said, so do you look at it as 3 or do you look at it as 1? As a Muslim, from a Muslim perspective, Jews and Christians and Muslims all believe in one God. Right? Traditionally, and according to the scriptures, and according to what you guys believe, it's one. Now, when I talk to Pentecostals, they don't believe in the Trinity, right? And there's some other denominations that do not believe in the Trinity. Correct. Yeah. I had several Pentecostal ministers that came to the mosque that visited me, and they said that they do not believe in the Trinity. So, okay. I had 12 of them, in fact, that came. And so they told me that they did not believe in a Trinity. And so, again, to us, in Islam, it's one. It's one. Yes, sir.
You must remember, if they do not believe in the Trinity, they are not Christians.
Okay.
That's a big distinction.
Okay.
And we worship God the Father,
God the
God
Son,
the Son,
and the Holy Spirit.
and God the Holy Spirit.
Hmm. See, did you see that, what you said? You said God the Son, God the yeah, no, but what I'm saying is, again, he said God, so to us, it's one, again.
But I hear you talking about essentially the God the Father,
Mhm.
and you call everybody Jesus.
Mhm.
That's not true.
Okay.
And I haven't heard you mention anything about the Holy Spirit. Do you worship that part too?
No, we don't. We just believe, again, like I said, it's God, the super being, and then Jesus separately, not the Son, but separately as the prophet, not the Son.
By definition, then, you're not worshiping the same God that we are.
Yeah. Again, as God being one, and if you look at the Aramaic vernacular of Jesus' definition, it's the same God. So,
God worship that.
Muslims divide the human body into parts. When they think about the human body, they think you have a distinct mind, soul, and a body.
so we have a spirit, right, that is, once you've passed on, that goes on, but the body then remains here, right? So with the burial, we have a different burial system too. We don't bury with a casket because we believe just like Adam came from dirt, we believe from dirt you came, to dirt you return. I think that's something similar to that in Christianity, correct? And so with that, we believe that there's the spirit that you have, and then we believe that that spirit then goes on, and that this is just a capsule for your spirit as a body. Does that kind of help you?
They're distinct parts of you. But
Yeah, there's a brain, there's a heart, there's the physical,
Not the anatomy, so to speak, as the divisions of
the spirit in the body.
personality and your spirit and body and your mind, and they can war with each other, your heart.
Yes, sometimes your heart and your mind don't agree. Yes. Yeah. So that's,
Three parts, three distinct parts, one person.
I really like that explanation. That's the first time I've ever heard that explanation. Yes, honestly, every time I've ever asked that question, nobody has been able to give me that particular explanation. I really like that explanation.
They don't agree, and they don't have the same information.
Mhm.
The same way we think with God the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, that there are certain things about the world and the sure that God the Father knows,
Mhm.
but God the Son is not privy to.
Gotcha.
So they are very distinct. They do not share the same information.
Gotcha.
They're not one.
Yeah, because that's a very difficult concept for Muslims. We don't understand.
Christians.
Well, you guys seem to have it down pretty good. For Muslims, it's a very difficult concept for us to understand that the God that created the heavens and the earth, thousands of years later, had a son. You know, we believe that we're all the children of God, right? And He created us as humans, all starting with Adam, right? And so it's very difficult for us to understand that thousands of years later He had a son, right? And then He decided to sacrifice that son, right? And then, so when I ask people, you know, and they're like, it's a free gift, right? If you, just as long as you accept, you're going straight to heaven. And so we say, well, what about the things you've done here? You know, does it matter? And several people have told me, just as long as you've accepted Jesus Christ, you're going to heaven. That's a free gift, regardless of what you've done here. And it's very difficult for us to understand that, right? I think maybe you guys might have a different take on that. I don't know. But one of my friends who's Baptist, you know, that's every other week when we meet for lunch, you know, he's trying to convince me that it's a free gift and that I need to accept it. And regardless of what I do from the moment I accept it to the moment I die, I'm still going to go to heaven. And I asked him, well, what if I'm this horrible person, you know, and I commit all these crimes? Well, you've accepted the gift. Those are mistakes you've made. And so if you can understand, it's a very difficult concept for Muslims to understand. Because we believe we're judged and held accountable for every action that we do. So I understand. I'm sure it's just as equally hard for you guys to understand. So, but I very much appreciate that, because that's the first time I've heard it being explained that way, and I really appreciate it. How are we doing on time?
We're pretty close on time. We're actually a little bit over.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
If Larry's been wanting to get a question.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
No, I think there's a lot of negative stereotyping
Mhm.
of Muslims.
Mhm.
And I think part of it is due to the fact that there's a fear that Muslims in a majority
Mhm.
or a superiority
Mhm.
will try to forcibly convert non-Muslims.
Mhm.
And I think, personally, I believe that's not historical.
Mhm.
And I think there are passages in the Quran
Mhm.
that go against that concept.
Yes.
And you can expand.
Yes, of course. And so for us, there is absolutely no compulsion in religion, right? And so I ask people, have you ever seen an evangelical Muslim? No, I'm not trying to be cynical, I'm being serious. Have you seen an evangelical Muslim?
Do they do missionary work or?
We don't call it missionary work, we call it service, right? And so we're doing a service, and we're not going there to teach you about religion. We are going there to help you because you truly need help, right? Within our mosque in Tulsa and here, we have a food bank, we have a medical clinic, we have social services, we have a battered women and children's shelter, both here and in Oklahoma City. And so, like I told you from the get-go, it's all about helping those that are less fortunate. And for us, it's not up to us to define what your religion is or help you find religion. That's not up to us. It's if God, and in the Quran, you can look this up, if God chooses to open your heart to whatever He wants you to believe in, He will lead you down that path, right? And so our job as a Muslim is just to help you with, if you've fallen, just to help you up. That's it, right? And so it's not up to us to tell you, oh, you have to be Muslim. Now, are there people who do that? And have there been historically people who have done that with the sword and with bombs and everything else? Yes. Yes, there have been. And are they right? No, they're 100% wrong, right? And they will be judged for that, because according to us, they will be judged for that. So, like I told you before, in my own faith, in my own family, we have Catholics and atheists and agnostics. You know, am I going to love my sister or my cousins any less because they chose a different faith? No, absolutely not. They're my flesh and blood. I would never do that. You know, it's not up to me to judge. Because like I told you before, the second I attempt to pass judgment, I'm giving them all of my blessings and I'm taking all of their sins. So it's between them and God. It's very, very individualistic. Does that kind of help you with that answer? Thank you. Thank you so very much. And again, please accept my apology if it came across like I was being judgmental.
Just louder with the mic.
I'm so sorry. Please accept my apology. I'm a loudmouth as it is, so I'm very, very sorry. But I want to thank you all so very much for so humbly accepting me into your church and having dinner with me. And, you know, I just hope that we can continue dialogue. And I hope that you're able to meet people like your physician and your physicians and just have dialogue with them and ask them. Frankly, we love it when people ask us questions. Yes, ma'am.
I mentioned it this morning, a bunch of us here. I worked at a rather large hospital in Washington, D.C., and in my little group, we had 3 Muslims, a Catholic, a Baptist, Lutheran, and a Jewish gal. And you talk about a United Nations. But the wonderful thing was, since it was a laboratory and we were 24/7, 365 days a year, we always had the holidays covered.
That's always with us too, because the Muslim holidays fall smack dab in the middle of the summer right now. I forgot to mention that the Muslim calendar is not on a traditional Gregorian calendar. It's on a lunar calendar. That's why our holidays move back 10 days, right? Minus 365 minus the 10. And so they love having a Muslim in the mix because during Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter, they know the Muslims have them covered, right? And so it works out well.
And then the Jewish gal, and then it was
Of course, it works out wonderfully.
But we had 2 of the Muslims. We had a gentleman who was Iranian, and the 2 gals were Lebanese and Egyptian. And the
Very different.
Yeah, the Egyptian gal was veiled. The gal from Lebanon looked as, like me. Well, I mean, she was darker, of course. But they were all wonderful people, and
That's so sweet.
I can remember one time the Iranian guy, we had a horrible snowstorm, and he had the transportation to bring some people in, so he brought people in.
That's wonderful.
It was,
I'm glad that you had that.
it was a wonderful experience,
That's wonderful.
and I'm very thankful that I had it.
Thank you again so much.
To me, the way to peace is to learn to know one other person of another
And
faith.
not to
Yeah.
be afraid.
Yes. Do you guys have open tables here?
What do you mean?
Do you guys, there's a program called Open Tables. Do you guys have that here?
Not here. I don't know
In
if it's
Oklahoma City?
I don't know.
Okay. So in Tulsa, it's out of Boston Avenue, and they've had it for about 15 years now, and what we call is open tables. And so at each table, we have a person that's Jewish, Muslim, several different denominations of Christianity, Baha'i, Hindu, Buddhist, even atheist, right? And so the idea is it's a big potluck, and each time that we meet, it's about a different faith tradition or minus lack of there, right? And so, well, I mean, whatever it is that
I
they
don't
believe
mean to
in,
laugh,
right?
but it's
No,
all-
of course, you're not. So anyways, we have this wonderful discussion at each of these tables, and we typically had, last time we had a little over 150 people that attended. And so it's an open invitation to people. That might be something you guys want to start here, but, it's wonderful to be able, every other month, we meet one evening, and it's just for a couple of hours, and, you get to meet new people. And each time we make sure that different people are sitting at the table, at each table.
We do have that in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
There was a picture in the newspaper, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, but Justin King,
Yes.
who was one of my students, who was the older brother of one of my students at Cassidy, was in that picture, and he is very actively involved
In interfaith work, multi-faith work, yeah. I know, I travel back and forth to Oklahoma City with OCC, Oklahoma Conference of Churches, and they have a little over, are you guys a partner with OCC? Yeah. So they have a little over 4,000 churches and temples and synagogues and mosques that are partners with them. And so they do all sorts of interfaith work that we work together. In fact, tomorrow is Muslim Day at the Capitol. Tons of people will be at the Capitol from the interfaith community protecting the Muslims who are going into the Capitol, because we've, as usual, received tons of threats. And so we have a very close-knit interfaith community, both here in Oklahoma City and in Tulsa, and we're so blessed to have that. So just like you said, it is amazing. If you can just meet one other person.
You just
of a
have to
different
do
faith.
it one at a time.
Yeah.
I start with my neighbor.
You take your pie?
No, it's a young man and his
Oh, that's right, you
very
told me
young
you're-
wife from Pakistan.
From Pakistan.
They're just as afraid of us Americans as the Americans have been of them. But I
it's
just
hard.
speak nicely to them every day.
You're so sweet. You're so sweet. My God bless you for everything that you do. So, thank you again so very much.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so sorry I went over time.
That's okay.
I apologize.
That's okay. And for